Now let's actually invite Dr. Jahaur Saleem, who's a diplomat and he has been the former ambassador to Italy as well as the Foreign Secretary for Pakistan in our show and take his comments. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Jahaur Saleem Saab. Jahaur Saab, my first question to you is obviously we were talking about SAARC and how there have been credible media reports that now Pakistan and China are actually working together to actually make a new regional cooperation bloc in our region. If I could ask you a question that before actually going into the details, can you actually tell our viewers that what was the main purpose of SAARC and why did it actually fail to achieve its objectives that it was actually supposed to work on?
It's very unfortunate that SAARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, which was, interestingly enough, was the brainchild of President Jahaur Rahman of Bangladesh.
Yeah.
And of course, Pakistan was very keen to work with Bangladesh and all other countries in the region, and that's how it was set up. But it was an organization with a great promise and potential, because South Asia, as you've rightly said, is a region which now comprises almost 25% of the world population. Every fourth person on the globe lives in South Asia. But all that promise that this region offers has not translated into intra-regional integration. In fact, if anything, South Asia is the least integrated region in the world, with just 5% of the trade of South Asian countries focused on the region itself. The worst part is that, this region is plagued by some festering wounds in terms of those disputes of Jammu and Kashmir, for instance, some water disputes. And now we see a tendency where India has even tried to wriggle out of Indus Waters Treaty, and not just with Pakistan. It's trying to wriggle out of similar treaties with other countries such as Bangladesh, for instance. So this attitude, this irresponsible attitude, this attitude of hubris, this attitude of hegemony, it is the key reason for South Asia not being integrated, and it's the key reason for failure of SAARC. We see that even the meetings of SAARC are not held regularly, and there has been literally nothing has come out of SAARC for so many years now, primarily because of the obstacles that India has created.
Absolutely. And which is very unfortunate. We were talking about India trying to punch above its weight, especially ever since Narendra Modi's regime has come into power. And more or so, his regime doesn't seem more like a government that is actually governing over 1.5 billion people, but it actually looks like an extension of an RSS political office. So with India's hegemonic attitude and its jaundiced view towards regional cooperation, do you think that any a new alliance that Pakistan and China are set to make, how big of a loss can it actually, really make to India if they are actually not part of it? And do you think that any new regional cooperation bloc which does not include India, do you think that it can be successful? Because unfortunately, India has actually destroyed whatever we could have actually gotten out of SAARC. But then again, it's one of the biggest countries in the region.
Unlike India, China has been a force for peace in the region. It has been a force for stability. It has been an agent for peace and cooperation. It has tried to build bridges. As you know, BRI, CPAC is a flagship project of BRI. How BRI and other initiatives that China is taking, for example, the initiative of the Global Civilizational Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, the Global Development Initiatives, all these initiatives of which Pakistan is now a signatory of, they are meant to promote cooperation, promote collaboration, promote mutually beneficial linkages. Unlike India, China has never tried to to pursue any hegemonic designs.
Absolutely.
And that is why China is widely respected in the region. And many countries in South Asia, that not only includes Pakistan, but also Sri Lanka, and also Bangladesh, and also Nepal, and all the other countries, Maldives. You can name any country in South Asia, except India.
Like if we talk about India, on the other hand, it has a problem with Bangladesh at the moment, Nepal, Bhutan.
The difference is so stark, so obvious in terms of the attitude and the kind of the foreign policy that they're pursuing. I mean, on the one hand, China is pursuing the foreign policy of peace and cooperation. On the other hand, India is pursuing a foreign policy of conflict and discord. And sadly, it's been sort of, it claims to be the biggest democracy in the world. But we know what is happening within India. It is it's actually literally a fascist dispensation that we see in India, where they're trying to set up a Hindu Rashtra, so to speak, a Hindu republic, where there's no place for minorities. There is no place for Muslims. There's no place for Christians. There's no place for Sikhs and Zoroastrians, where they want everybody to convert to Hinduism. I mean, you see, this is the ideology and philosophy of hate and sort of division that BJP is pursuing. I think it is not just malicious for the entire region, but for India itself. It has really fomented and it has really sowed seeds of discord that India in future years will really suffer for.
Absolutely, for decades actually, and bigotry has gone through the roof. One final question, Jahaur Saab, I would like to ask from you is that we talked about India actually unilaterally violating the Indus Waters Treaty. With this kind of attitude of actually this artificial persona they have of supremacy over the others in the region, do you think that India can carry on its merry way, especially after how the 7th May the entire war they tried to actually rage on Pakistan and the region, and how they actually got red-faced by the entire world? Do you think that India can continue to actually carry on its merry way? And if you could also tell about how pragmatic the Pakistani diplomacy has been in the last few months.
You see, India's position on Indus Waters Treaty is sad. It's a sad reflection of its policies, because the treaty has no provision for unilateral withdrawal or unilateral holding in abeyance. And that has been demonstrated not just by the experts, but also we know by the Court of Arbitration. The Permanent Court of Arbitration has ruled now that the treaty gives full jurisdiction, like before, to the Court of Arbitration on the Kishan Ganga and Rati Dam projects. And why? Because there is no provision in the treaty for unilateral actions, such as India claims holding the treaty in abeyance. And that's very much an endorsement of Pakistan's official position on that this treaty, the way it was structured, and has no such provisions. And also, this treaty guarantees the stability of the region in terms of food security, in terms of the division of waters as per international law and as per the UN Charter, and as per all the rights and responsibilities that the upper riparian and lower riparian states have. So we have been vindicated, and India's stance has been totally nullified, and this has been evident in the position of all the countries, all the major countries within this region, and of course in the world, who have all called for India's again getting back into the fold of the treaty. In fact, that unilateral holding in abeyance technically doesn't at all, but from a political standpoint, they want India to renounce that illegal action and state that they are as much part of the treaty as they ever were. And in fact, they should not only abide by the original treaty, but they should also, in letter and spirit, abide by the decisions and the rulings of the courts of arbitration.
सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल दबाएं ताकि कोई खबर रह न जाए।